Episode 9. We made it.
We made it home in one piece on a late night flight.
You were there a lot longer than me. And, this is, I lost count to how many Olympias I've been to, but.
What year was your first?
95, Dorian Yates.
Did you just go as a spectator?
Yeah, spectator, yeah. It was my first. No, it was in Atlanta, and he won his.
Really fourth?
It would have been. So he won 92, 93, 94, 95. Yeah, fourth. Yeah.
So that was. Did that motivate you? Did you turn pro just after that?
Yes, the year after. So I was invited as a guest, and it was in Atlanta, which they used to rotate. I don't know if people following us remember, but they used to rotate the Olympia. Mm-hmm. It used to go like Chicago, Atlanta, New York. I mean, it went to Helsinki in 92. So it used to switch every year to different places. And I was fortunate enough to go to that show. And I never really understood how Dorian Yates really won by looking at pictures in the books, because it never really showed the real picture. Because I always looked at like someone like Paul Dillette, who was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And I said, man, I think he should win, And then when I actually went and watched the competition, I got to see how crazy Dorian looked in person. It was wild.
Yeah. Just like any other show, when you see pictures and people think, oh, this guy, but when you're in person.
Yeah, and you know what I didn't understand, though? This is something that we'll talk about in this year's Olympia and how I understand it now. So Sean Ray got second, and he was a lot smaller, and Nasser got third.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't understand. I want to say Kevin was fourth or something then. But I didn't understand how Sean Ray, being as little as he was in the middle of those two monsters. Mm-hmm. But I saw, like, with Nasser, his back wasn't as conditioned as his front side. Mm-hmm. And what was really cool is, so 95 was like my breakthrough year. That was the year I won the Tournament of Champions in California, and Nasser was the guest poser. It was 3 weeks before the Olympia. It was like August, I remember the date, August 19th, 1995. And I watched Nasser guest pose, and I couldn't believe how big he was, number one, and number two, how big he was that far out from the show. And like, it seemed like he was holding a lot of water. I remember the next day I went to Gold's to do a photo shoot in Venice. And I remember Nasser was there on the bike, and he had gone out to Cheesecake Factory with us the night prior after my victory. And I remember people talking about he ate like 3 pieces of cheesecake, and it was 3 weeks from the show. And I remember he did like 2 or 3 hours in one session on the bike at Gold's Gym Venice that next day. And I remember someone telling me, yeah, he's on the bike for like 3 hours, which amazed me because, as you know, we're not supposed to be on more than an hour at a time. Yeah. Yeah. And so it kind of shocked me that, number one, he'd go eat cheesecake 3 weeks out from the show. Number two,
3 hours of cardio.
3 hours of cardio. And then, of course, he goes to the Olympia and he gets third. And
so if he wouldn't have ate that cheesecake and didn't have to, do you think that could that made a difference?
It could have. I mean, it could have made a difference, but you still got third. It was his breakthrough show. Like, he hadn't placed that well yet. But he was massive. And I look at him now, and I look at today's lineup, and I still look back and think, and I'm not going to sit there and criticize today's era, but like, I can't believe how big he was back then.
How much did he weigh? His peak?
He was 285 on stage.
And he wasn't.
And he was like 330 in the off season. So like
5'10"?
He was 5'11". So he was 285 on stage, and he was pretty damn hard. So just goes to show, like, but that was my first. I competed in my first one in 99. It was at Mandalay Bay. And I finished 15th there. So that was kind of the first experience. And I think that 95 was the only one I went to before I competed in one. So I only got to attend and visibly watch one without competing in it.
Well, you get to watch them now.
Yeah, of course. But that's back then, that was the first time I had gone from, basically watching.
And if you look at what the Olympias were then to now, then it was just three divisions.
Yeah, it was like $100,000 first place. It's 400 today. There was
women in fitness.
Yeah.
That was it. What was there, like an expo attached to that? That was before I ever went to an Olympia.
There was not.
So it was just a show.
And then in 99, they started like a small little I would probably say it was like last year's Olympia in Orlando where they just had a few booths.
Yeah.
And that's what they had, and the press conference, you had to wear a suit. They had us all lined up at one table. The media would ask questions and, they'd pick certain people and some people would never speak. It's not like today. I don't know how they ran the format for the press conference, but like, each person got to speak like later as you went on. But I think, a lot of people didn't get to speak back then.
Yeah, this year the press conference was different than any other year. So what they did was they had Bob Ciccarello was out there, and they would call out people from each division, and they would walk out, and they'd ask them questions and have them, interact with one another, and then they'd have them go back. So everybody got their moment to walk out there.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it was kind of like, they stood out there and there was mics set up, which I thought was kind of cool, It
was different because sometimes there could be a champion or someone that got second place from another division that isn't as popular, and they get at the very end, a couple seconds worth of shine to where anybody who was invited to the press conference got their name announced, their picture on the screens, got to walk out and got something asked to them in front of their peers. And they got
So was everyone inclusive that was competing or no?
No, it's just they invited any former champion. I think someone who was a top 5 contender. Like they had Hunter and Nick were the first 2 pro bodybuilders, open men that came out.
The young guns.
And they had them go back and forth a little bit, and Nick took his shirt off. And so it was a different, I liked the format. It was different because we got to see certain people come out in tracksuits. Certain people would come out in, some of the girls were done up. Some guys were in suits. Mm-hmm. So you got to see their own little personality as well. So that was different. I like that format a lot better.
You like the more casual, optional.
Yeah, no, I sometimes the press conferences before are really boring. Everyone just kind of sits there and they just have to sit there and, the cameras are on them and waiting for their turn. We'll just put the cameras on them when they're ready to talk and just walk them out.
I'm not a fan of it. I thought it was always a waste of time, yeah.
Oh, just in general, the press conference?
I never liked a press conference,
I always thought a press conference should be after it. Talk about what happened, what didn't happen.
Well, they do the victory seminar, which only includes the winners, which, it's kind of like, they're asking questions about, hey, how do you feel about beating, like it's like Bumstead beating Breon or Diesel, yeah. Like they're not there to really defend like how they feel. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. For me, like I wasn't winning every year, but I was still super popular being second place to Coleman. I'm sure people would have loved to hear my take on it, right?
Yeah.
But I unfortunately didn't make it until I didn't visibly watch the prejudging. I got to see the night show, and my flights got kind of messed up there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I forgot what day it was. Wednesday, I think you texted me and you said, "Dude, my flight's."
No, it's Thursday.
Or Thursday. You're like, my flight's. My flight. They changed my seats and they bumped me out of it. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
because I remember looking in the app and seeing you had first class seats, and then you were like, they put us in the back of the plane
together, and they separated us, and we were taking the dogs with us, so we had, traveling with the 2 Yorkies, it's a little difficult separating, so we wanted to sit near each other, and for some reason they just, I booked my reservation through Chase Travel, which we love, by the way. I mean, we like to use Chase. Points. Yeah, so that kind of screwed the whole thing up, so I wasn't able to get there on time, but at the same time, I still made it, for.
I remember your mess. I forgot where I was walking through, and you're like, my flights are screwed up, and I'm walking somewhere in the building from place to place, and I'm on my phone trying to find you new flights.
And you sent me flights, and you sent me like October 22nd.
Yeah, first I was like, you're like, there's no flights, and I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? They're everywhere. You're like, that's the wrong date. I'm like,
what did you think when I wrote you back that message?
No, I was like, there's flights. There's all kinds of flights. What are you talking about? And you're like, that's the wrong date. And I scrolled up, and I'm like, shit, that's 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. So,
but you were able to get there though. I flew out Monday night. I took the red eye and got in Tuesday morning. I had, Regan Grimes competing, and anytime I have someone that I manage in the show, I kind of feel like I need to be there for everything. So we got in early Tuesday morning and got acclimated. And then Wednesday, you go right into the athlete meetings. The open men are only on Wednesday. Then Thursday they have all the other divisions.
Well, remember they had the amateurs going on, right?
The amateurs are going on Tuesday and Wednesday.
So the Olympia brand has changed. You know, they opened up now the Amateur Olympia, which, you know, that's expanded given that people from all over the world the chance to compete. Although I feel that it probably suffered a little bit this year because of COVID restrictions, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, I remember the days when it was just, like you said, men's, women's, fitness.
That was it.
And now the brand is getting so much bigger. It's
There's
recognized.
9 pro divisions, and then the Amateur Olympia can have 600 to 1,000 competitors.
So we got to shout out Jake Wood, of course, Dan Solomon, Tamer, you know, Martine, all those guys.
Yep, Angelica Nevia, Sophia, Heather.
They did such a great job in putting together. And I mean, last year was the pressure year because they changed it 3 weeks prior from Vegas over. But, you know, 2022 is going to be it's going to be stellar in Las Vegas. You know, it's going to be in December.
Yeah, you know, when I left, when we were flying out, I just thought to myself, like, this last year and a half has been so trying all over the world. Everyone's stuff's canceled. People are losing their jobs. Some people are getting sick, and everyone's scared. And the fact that the Olympia went on, and it made us, like, this weekend, I felt like it was any other year. You know, there's no restrictions there. Everything's under one roof, and people just lived. And so it's always going to have like a special place there, because for that 1 week for the last year and a half, it's just been chaos, you know, all over the world.
Yeah, you know, it's great to see everyone back. I felt it was really crowded. Like, you attend the expo more than me, and we had to rush me in. But, you know, when you got there for the athlete check-in, because you actually attended that, I mean, how was the emotions around the passing of George Peterson?
That was, you know, when the athlete, we found out Wednesday morning, a couple hours after it happened, and then the athletes check-in. So Dan Solomon and Tamer and Tarek and Jake Wood and Tyler Mannion, everyone were there, and he just took a little bit of a moment to just talk about it, just to remind people that, you know, life is fragile. And you could look around the room and see people were visibly disturbed by it, because he's not an elderly person. You know, he was 37 years old. I mean, that could happen. We're over 37, you know, so that could happen to us. So I think a lot of the bodybuilders I think anytime someone passes, they get a little, you know, I don't want to say nervous, but you just look in the mirror like, this could happen. This could happen to anyone.
You know, Matt, we talked about on the podcast in a prior episode, and we said, you know, you were like, I remember one episode, you're like, dude, I was afraid you were going to die.
Yeah.
Like, because I pushed the dehydration so far, and you know, you asked me, were you scared? You know, and Dave's sitting over here in the background, and he's shaking his head because he knows. I mean, I could barely get out of bed a lot for these last, you know, few hours before, and it's amazing you can go up there and perform, right? And you're scared, man. Like, you push yourself, but, you know, before we kind of zone in on what we think happened or whatever, I mean, we'll find out if it was a pre-existing or like we had heard, it wasn't necessarily because of dehydration, because he wasn't at that point. Yeah. And he was training out. And you know, they said he was doing, you know, he was fine when he left and, you know, went to sleep that night. So, you know, it's hard. You know, it's hard when someone passes, and it's hard when he's such a respectable guy and a great guy, and, you know, there's no death that's valid, right? Yeah. But he was just loved by so many people. So, you know, once again, our condolences to
you. Like I said, you could see when Dan was talking about it. You know, I was sitting off to the side, and you could just see everyone kind of put their head down, and I'm sure some of the guys were really bothered because they knew him a lot. You know, I wasn't super close to him. I'd see him all the time, but I wasn't someone who spoke to him on a regular basis. But I'm assuming some of the guys in there that were in that,
and the two
check-ins were.
You know, you know, he was a classic into, you know, 212 division. 212. So, you know, I think Bumstead recognized him in his speech, you know, which was great. But, you know, you attended the athlete meetup. Mm-hmm. Who had the longest lines, you think?
Bumstead, for sure. Bumstead, Rami, Regan, Andre Dewey. They were the one, Nick Walker. You know, the guys that are really active on social media. had the long lines. But it's different because we could go back to, when you were doing
I want to ask a question. I'm going to ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So did they rival my line at the?
No.
But you remember the contest was a lot bigger.
It was a lot. It's a lot.
You hear that, Dave?
Yeah, it's hard to say because back then, like, there was only so many people in that press in the Meet the Olympians.
Yeah.
Now there's 10,000 people in there, but it's so different when you would see the lines back when you were doing it. It was just in one room. There were 12 guys, 10 Olympia women open bodybuilders, and 10 fitness, and that was it. It was just in one room. Now they have it's 100 yards long because there's 300-400 people competing in it. So there was this one huge room, and they just had two, like, I don't want to say just tables lined up on each side, and the athletes sat back to back behind it, and then fans could come up. That it had to have been 50 yards long. And you look around and you realize if you go through the doors in the next room, there's another line just as big in another room. So it's just, you would never expect it to be as big as it is now compared to back when you were at your peak. It was like, there's only 20 people in here.
Dude, I set up a whole shop. You remember?
Of course.
I rented a U-Haul truck. Did you drive the U-Haul, Dave? Or who? Carrie did, yeah. Yeah, she drove a U-Haul. We rented a U-Haul truck to haul all the clothes.
Dude, I remember you texting me and you were like, does so-and-so, are they selling merchandise? I'm like, no. And you're like, fucking stupid or something. They should be making money. Yeah. Because I think Nick Walker had a couple things out. A couple people had a couple little posters and stuff. But like, I just think of like when Dexter was there, when you were there, as Ronnie was there, there'd be a 10-foot area and you'd have every piece of merchandise there.
I know, and it wasn't about I want to make this much money. It was about putting people in my clothes or the hats. So when they went to the show, I had that, that support, because that's people are there to represent their people, right? So they love wearing the Team Cutler shirts and, whether it's Swole Monkey or, Cutler Athletics. It was pretty cool.
Even a couple years ago when it was at the Orleans, the people that would have a lot of merchandise, they'd put them at the end caps. I mean, I remember there was times where people even had pop-ups.
Yeah.
It's just like this behind me. But it's an opportunity to meet your fans because not everybody can go to the expo. If you're competing, if your supplement company isn't there or one of your sponsors isn't there, or you can't just go sit there if you're competing. You just don't have the time. So this is your opportunity to get your products out there. But it was I note there was a lot more YouTubers in there filming stuff. It wasn't just before. It would be like Muscular Development and Flex and 2 or 3. Now there's
interviewing people for their channels.
There's 30 people in there, big YouTubers, online, whoever. There was just a lot of people around filming, a lot more than normal, which is good because it shows there's more interest in the sport. But next year we need to have you in there, and you can have you go around interviewing people.
Yeah, I mean, Dave did last year. We just didn't come, but since it's in Vegas, it'll be easier. All right, so I got to watch a little bit of, I was flying in as the pre-judging because the guys went on so late. So I got to watch the men's open on Friday night. I missed, some of the fitness, and I did see the end of 212, and we'll talk about that. But I did get a little bit of the open, as far as the comparison.
So what did you think of comparisons? Because you were texting me on your whole flight the whole way there.
I wasn't certain Rami won on Friday night. Brandon definitely gave him a solid run, and I'll talk about that when I talk about kind of the breakdown. But and then I got to see it live Saturday night, which was great. I had second row seats. Of course, you had first row.
No, you had no. They so we gave you your tickets, and for whatever reason, they put yours off to the side, and then halfway through it, when I just went back, and I just had Angie go up front, and you guys just sat right there. But for whatever reason, yours was first row, but that first part wasn't on the charts that we didn't know about. It was AA. It wasn't even on the list. So all the people behind that in your area was technically supposed to be first row.
Yeah. But it was good. I got to see, front row and center pretty much. I think we're in the same spot last year, actually.
Last year, we were actually further. We were one whole section over.
Okay.
So where you were, there was the middle right there, and then that first spot right there. So you were maybe 15 foot off the dead center. 15 and 20 feet.
Yeah, I got to see everyone come out, and it was really cool. But let's talk a little bit about the show.
Let's start with bikini, because bikini was kind of a little bit more close to us here, because we had people that we see on a regular basis in the gym in the show. So in bikini, Jennifer Dory got her first title, and she's close to us because it's Mark Anthony's girlfriend, and we see her at the gym.
Yeah, and we were suggestive that she probably had the best shot to win. Janet retired from last year, so there's no title defense. So a new champion was going to be crowned, and she won the Arnold a couple weeks prior.
Yep, 2 weeks before,
and she looked solid. I mean, it was pretty clear cut in my opinion when I saw her come out on Saturday. I didn't get to watch the comparisons and prejudging, but that was a one-day show like they did Saturday morning and then Saturday evening finals.
Yeah, she got first. Laura Lee, who we saw out here for a long time, got second. Ashley Kaltwasser still at it. She's 3-time Miss Olympia. We see her on a regular basis. Maureen got fourth, and Isa Piccini who's a 1-time Miss Olympia, got fifth.
Yeah, I think she was sixth last year, right?
She was sixth last year, and the year before she won.
Yeah, so, and talk about Ashley, like she's been at it for a long time. Laura Lee, she got second her first one many years ago, so she's back to position. I asked Jen and her what they said to each other. I was curious because they made, they held hands and walked across the stage, and I remember my and Ronnie's conversations when it came down to the top two, and that was really cool because it's two Canadians, and
they
were
both train
out
here in Vegas.
Yeah, they both train at Dragon Slayer,
and they're both signed in the same supplement company. Yeah.
So it was kind of cool, and they're both the younger one. That they just said, you look really great, and you deserve, whatever. This is like
splitting hairs.
Yeah, because they both battled. If you remember, I mean, Jen got third in Tampa. I think Laura was fourth. So they really worked on improving their physiques to what the judges' standard was. And I think that was huge. I mean, Maureen, we talked about, we knew she would be in the top 5.
Yeah. I was there when she turned pro in San Marino and at an amateur Olympia, and then she competed in the Open. I think she got second, and she should have won. Like right after she turned pro, she should have won that pro show. I don't know why they didn't give it.
And she trains at Venice. Dave shoots her for the channel, and she's so nice. I remember I saw her at Gold's like a few weeks, probably 6 or 7 weeks out, and I said, "So what's your expectations?" And she's like, "I don't know." And I said, "Of course you know. Tell me you're good. You're going there to win." And I think she was pretty ecstatic. I did see her. Yeah. Her boyfriend, Francisco, and I said, "How is she? What is her reaction?" He said, "Oh, she was so happy."
Sure. Ashley, I thought this was one of the best looks she's had in a long time. At the Arnold, she was a little flat. She got, I think, 4th or 5th, and it was as good as I mean, I'm sure she was happy getting third. I mean, I'm sure she wanted to win.
Yeah, I felt when she was in her prime, she'd really dusted the competition. Yeah. Because no one was really built in the hamstrings and glutes like she was. And then it seemed like they knocked her down a little bit. I don't know, she was just looked different. And now she's like come into her own, even since we saw her compete at the show in Vegas.
Yeah.
She's
dramatically improved.
But she really, for a girl that continues, she competed, she set history and competed on the same weekend, in 2 shows. She finished second at that other one. But, it's, we talk about the competition, and hey, why not pick up as many titles as you can?
She could legitimately keep going.
How many pro wins now?
29. She's tied for Dexter. She could legitimately still win her 4th title. It was that close, and she's consistent. She stays on her diet year round, and I would expect to see her right in that top 5 next year and the year after. Like, she's not slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed watching the bikini. Division. I don't get to sit through a lot, so it was pretty cool.
And then so we have the Open Miss Olympia is back. This is a 2nd year in a row. Andrea Shaw won, who I think is as good as it can get for a female bodybuilder. She's marketable. She's got great lines, great structure. She was conditioned. She's got all the tools.
Yeah, and Helly got second. She was in her best shape. Like she was crazy, shredded, and I think it comes down to a structure thing. I mean, that's where the difference is. And, she was a Wings of Strength champion before, I think a couple times. And, you know, I know she really thought the Olympia, when they brought it back, the women's bodybuilding, it was going to be hers, and she's knocking at the door. She's holding position.
She's right there.
She might have been, I think she was third last year.
Yeah.
But, and
then Margie Martin got third.
Yeah.
Helly was shredded. And, you know, it's one of those things where you bring your best, and, you know, Andrea's just a beast.
Yeah, I mean, she won.
She's great.
She won Arizona, won the Corvette.
The last 2 years.
Yeah.
And look, if she keeps coming in the way she is, I see her winning many years in a row. I don't know how old she is. But
yeah, super nice. I got to visit with her.
So then we had
Ohio.
wellness for the first time ever, and I don't know if I'm going to say her name. Francili Matos won. I know she lives in Brazil, and I think she's got a ton of titles, and she just kind of comes in and does her show.
Yeah, she's the standard now.
Yes.
I mean, it was kind of the question mark, what was going to be the standard at that level, right?
Yeah.
And I know Angela was.
She won Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then she got second here. Or no, I think second or third. And then Isabella Nunez, and then Yarishna got fourth.
Yeah.
And that was, but a lot of people thought Yarishna was going to be the one that
set the standard. But, with that division, you just don't know who's going to come out of whatever angle. And, I didn't get to see, because they had prejudging and their finals at the convention or at the expo. Yeah.
So I didn't get to see it, and I was running back and forth when the finals came out. But we got to see her on the main stage Saturday night, and she's
it's pretty cool. They brought it out. They announced that it's going to be on the main stage next year. So that's one of the most exploding divisions. I heard when they opened that show at the expo, it was packed. Like people were just dying to see how the standard was.
When they brought them out, I actually Trifecta being the title sponsor, and Liz Connolly was there. She had to hand the award out. So I had to get her through there, and it was a nightmare getting her through the crowd because the stage was on one side, and then you have booths, just like a normal expo, and just taking her down, I'm talking 30, 40 yards before you even get to where the outside of the ring of the people are. It was hard getting her through. And at every angle you look, there's thousands of people holding their cameras up because this is the first time wellness has been there. So it's good that they're going to have it on the main stage next year. Fitness Olympia, we had a battle. Whitney Jones reclaimed her title. I think it's her second or third, I think. And Missy Truscott got second, and Oksana Grishina got third, and Ariel Kadar got fourth. Now you got to see. No, you didn't get to see any of it because their finals were on Friday.
No, I didn't. I've witnessed it before. I thought Missy was kind of she was the champ, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that she was going to take it, and obviously Oksana's like one of the greatest ever, and I know Ariel too also.
When I watched the routines, now obviously the certain portions judged from the physique, and Missy and Whitney's physiques are superior to Oksana.
Okay,
Oksana's routine is it's like watching Circus Olay. It's like a play, and you understand the emotions and you see everything. Whitney's, her performance was just straight, pure energy for however 90 seconds or 2 minutes straight. It was just one thing after another. And I just remembered watching this this is the most intense, performance I've seen in recent years. But I don't know. I didn't look at the scorecards to see it, but I think I thought Missy probably thought she would reclaim, get her second in a row. And Whitney came in and upset her.
Yeah, which it's a pretty cool story.
No, didn't she tear her? Well, she didn't compete at the Arnold because she got COVID and they wouldn't let her compete. And I could have swore the year before that, didn't she have knee surgery?
Yeah, she had some sort of an injury. I think.
So I mean, it's cool that you got three champions that
her routine was pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, it was just intense, and it's worth going and watching it again. It's definitely worth going and watching again. For figure, Sydney Gillen got her fifth. There wasn't as much hype into the figure this year because normally you got the Latoria Wattses and the Candace Lewises, and they weren't there. So you still got Sydney, and there's other figure girls coming up. So she pretty handily won her fifth. Women's physique. I don't know how do you say her last name. Vegas. I never say her last name right. And then Natalia Coelho got second. You didn't see any of those either on
I didn't see him, but I ran
Friday.
into Natalia, and I did run into. Is it Cher? How do you say her name?
I can never say it right.
Yeah,
That's stupid.
I did run into her. She looked unbelievable, of course, and
She was short. She's the one that beat.
she beat our Vegas girl,
Shanique.
Shanique Graham.
Men's physique. Brandon Hendrickson won his third, and to me, that was on Friday night. You saw some of the finals on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just seemed like he just was a light years ahead of everyone else. You know,
I think so too. I think I don't know how close it actually was, but
he just is just got as flawless of a physique as you can have. I didn't get to see the prejudging, but just watching on the finals, it seemed like he was going to pretty handily win his third title role. And then wheelchair, Harold Kelly won his third, and I didn't get to see that one either. I wasn't at the prejudging.
yeah, he's the king of wheelchair for sure.
So we want to go into classic next?
Yeah.
So you got to see classic, the finals. Chris Bumstead won his third. Terrence Ruffin second. Breon Ansley got third. Uris got fourth, and Roman Roca got.
Yeah, listen, Roman was the most. He was unbelievable.
That was the guy that got fifth.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. He's dangerous.
He can challenge Chris in the near future. Yeah. I expect him to be in that top three. You know, coming down the pipeline. What did you think between Breon, Terrence, and Chris?
Hey, listen, it's a coin toss between Breon and Ruffin. I mean, I think Chris, you know, if that's the standard with the shoulder width and the height, it's totally different from the other two guys. So I think there was more of a battle between Ruffin and Breon, and it's the same exact placings as last year. Bumstead, I don't know what he looked like compared to last year. It's hard to tell. I think he looked the same.
I thought he looked a little more full last year, but he's just, look, just my opinion, he's just.
Did he win it easy, or?
I just think a good big guy is going to beat a good smaller guy. And Chris is good.
I can see that.
He's got the goods, and it's going to take somebody tall, like in fifth place, Raymond. He could challenge Chris because he's got the height, and you need someone with the height and the round muscle bellies. And I mean, until you get someone that's similar structure to Chris.
Yeah, I would have liked to seen those two compared side by side a little more.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see it in prejudging, so that definitely that guy fifth place is one to watch, I think.
212. You didn't get to see.
No surprise here.
You were? I wasn't.
No surprise here.
Oh, no surprise. No, we talked about it going into it. So Derek Lunsford finally got it after, 4 years? Second, and then I think
there's a lot of controversy, though. You know, Clarito didn't look bad. He looked great. I mean, he looked as all of last year pretty much. And
see, and the way it happened this year, I could have looked at it the same way last year. Last year, Kamal was as good as he's ever been, and he lost, being the reigning champion, to Clarito.
Yeah, he doesn't have the leg fullness, I don't think. His legs are a little more straight, and I think that's where he ends up. I mean, he's shredded, and you know, no one in the 212 seems to be out of shape.
No.
But Derek just has the crazy shape. He has the round muscle bellies. He has the structure. He's got a little more height. He's just the big guy wins if he's on. And
he's almost 30. He's 30 pounds bigger.
Yeah. So I mean, I saw that.
We talked about it ahead of time when as soon as Hani signed him, I just thought Hani's going to make
a lot of effort. He doesn't miss. Hani doesn't miss with his guys very often unless the guys just go off on their own.
And I'm assuming this is one of the harder ones for him because he had to bring him down, get him his weight, and then balance that fullness with condition. And you know, I'm sure that would be a good conversation to have with Hani on how he actually did that, because I'm sure it wasn't the typical
easy,
open guy.
He told me that Hani told him he eats more than myself and Phil.
No, he actually said that.
Yeah,
he just eats and eats and eats and eats and eats.
Yeah.
So then we got to the open, and I was there during prejudging, and you got to be there during finals. And what did you think? You know, Big Ramy gets his second title. What did you think watching what you saw on Saturday night?
I saw a Ramy that wasn't as good as the year prior. You know, that's my opinion. I didn't see him as dominant as he was the year prior. Here we go, the same placings again. Yeah. This last year minus Phil Heath, he's missing. But Ramy, Brandon, Hottie, top three. I'd rather talk about the whole group because there's just a lot of comparisons. Hottie, just smaller structure, best shape of all three, meaning best condition. He was pretty stellar. Might have been a little bigger in the legs last year, maybe, or he was very close to condition last year, but he just, I feel, wasn't big enough to overtake these guys. Brandon was improved. He was fuller than the year prior. Maybe not as sharp in certain things, but I don't think he needed to be. And the only reason I feel that he probably lost in the end, because I feel it was really close on Friday from my understanding, is the leg size. Mm-hmm. And people talked about the cuts in the legs, which I feel Ramy doesn't have the most cut legs either. Mm-hmm. But Ramy has that structure that dominates. We talked about the lower lats. That was the question mark. I still think, there needs to be some work there. It seems like in the back double, he loses, lat spreads out of this world, but, he loses those lower lats. There's kind of a missing place there. And I think his glutes were harder than last year. But once again, I'm going to strive on, it's not a glute contest. I think Brandon just had a lot of overall package, but it was very close. It wasn't a knockout victory for Ramy. I don't think he won with straight first. Maybe he did. I don't know. And maybe that's why I don't judge contests.
When I looked at it, I think he had 7 points.
The big question mark was the fourth and fifth place between Hunter and Nick Walker. I mean, that literally could have gone either way. And I think in the end, they chose the shape of Hunter over Nick's condition and muscularity, which, listen, contests can be won and lost like that. But, Nick definitely made a huge impression, to be fifth in his first. Quite an amazing feat, better than I ever did. And, that those two are going to be the battle coming up. Hunter definitely improved. He was definitely better than eighth place last year. Still could have been drier.
Yeah, he had a lot of water coming off of prejudging. His tan was getting messed up a little bit.
But he's dangerous. I'll go on record if he really put it together and he was came in at his ability, he could win this contest next year.
Yes, he can.
I feel that, yes, and I'm going to say on record, he literally
drier and a little bit harder.
I think he could come in and win it because I know he's going to improve. He trains his ass off. He's focused. He could win this contest. And as I feel, it could be a battle between him and Walker in time. I think Walker's going to take the whole year and prepare, and I don't know what Hunter's planning to do. What qualifies? Top five?
They're both qualified next year.
Yeah, so the question is are they going to compete? I think
Nick told me he's taking the whole year off.
Yeah, so, I think he's got the diet down. So, I mean, he's, like I said, he's always going to beat guys on the condition factor, where Hunter still needs to figure out the dial down. And listen, I had the same issues, right? So I think that, he's very, very dangerous for that title in the time to come.
What about William Bonac?
Listen, I felt like I kind of lost William a little bit because I was just paying attention to the other guys, and I think he looked better than last year, but it just comes down to the size thing again. He's comparable with all these guys. He's just a little shorter, and we talked about him being a front runner, and I just thought he would have got a better look, and there was something missing that didn't give him that opportunity, or the guys were just better. I don't really know what it is. You can't pack any more muscle on that guy. So I think for him, it's just you're going to keep coming back and, come back, don't really change anything and just see where it falls. I don't know if he can get a whole lot better. Maybe he could be a little more crisper, but, don't sacrifice the fullness because your height advantage it's going to hurt you in the end with the guys that are slightly taller, especially someone like Ramy who outweighs him by a lot of weight.
Yeah. Ian,
he looked impressive. I mean, same placing as last year.
Someone asked me the other day, who was the most conditioned, and I said, Hottie was the most conditioned, but Ian was in really good condition.
Yeah, himself. He was good. I mean, just, the structure's just not as genetically blessed as like a Hunter or someone like a Brandon Curry, but he definitely is on his way up. And very consistent. I love his tenacity of like competing in all the shows and being like everyone's saying, oh, you shouldn't compete so much. And he's like, screw it, I'm going to go collect my money and, gain the respect. And he definitely gained a lot of people's respect this year. So, he's going to be in that top 6 mix, I believe, next year.
Yeah, for sure. Justin Rodriguez.
Crazy.
He
We
was the
talked
one
about
who-
him, the sleeper.
Yep. When you were texting me and prejudging, and I said, dude, Justin looks really good, man.
Great shape. Just needs a little more, fullness. I think his condition was solid.
Yeah.
Definitely got a great look here. I mean, very respectable placing. I mean, he nudged out Akeem, who was kind of your guy you talked about over and over, who just didn't bring what he had last year. So he was slightly off, but still a contender. Just got to figure some things out. Maybe his body's tired.
I thought Akeem would have been moved up. Look,
Yeah, he was 6.
The one guy ahead of him's not there anymore in Phil, so you would assume he'd move up into that top 5, but he
he fell back. I mean, ninth is probably not what he was looking for, and then Shaban getting 10th. That's amazing. Like we talked about this, and
we saw him in California.
yeah, his balance was kind of an issue, and I think he's improved on that. His legs were just overpowering, and he's just really brought the upper body. It came in great shape, and he seemed extremely happy with the top 10 place.
Of course, because he qualified on points,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm assuming people didn't assume he was going to be in that top 10 or he was going to be one of the guys towards the back of the pack. And for him to come and get a top, I don't know if this is his first Olympia.
I think it's his first, yeah.
For him to get top 10,
I think,
bro.
we witnessed an Olympia that had a lot of hype building up, and it seemed like it dragged on for a long time through the year, right? And we talked about who's it going to be, and I think we kind of recognized that, 212 who would be dominant. We knew, Classic, and we called kind of the top 4 or 5 at the Olympia, just kind of like deciding who was actually going to win it, right? Or be second, and it seems like Brandon held his position. I think he's still in the driver's seat for that place. I mean, I'd be curious to see who's going to go to the Arnold in March and who's going to sit out and just, take it easy. But I know there was some criticism towards the guys that everyone didn't look as sharp maybe on Friday night. And, it's kind of one of those things with the 2-day show. I hate the 2-day show. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I wish they would just do it all in one sweep. And I just think there's a lot of things that around the Olympia time that, leading up, being at expos and, having the meet and greets, the press conference, there's just a lot of stuff that they require these athletes to do too close to competition time. And I don't feel that that's the best thing. And I don't have the answer. I mean, it's not my show to run, but I always hated having those commitments because, as you know, I was the last one to leave on the Meet the Olympians. I got the most questions usually being the champ at the press at the press conference, and then it dragged. I mean, it's just hard when you're doing meet and greets the night before the show until midnight. It starts at 6:00. It's just really hard to sit there and stand on your feet and give the fans really what they want. So I think, a day after might be the best thing for some of these athletes to do these meet and greets,
Yeah, Sunday during the day.
Yeah, Sunday. They should have that kind of thing on a Sunday, like not just a victory seminar, but like do the meet and greets after,
Because most people don't leave out till Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, or just, just extend it one more, I think that wouldn't hurt it,
Yeah, no, I think it'd be good. I'm looking forward to what this whole next year brings and it being back out here in Vegas. And then now going in this next year, now the conversation of who's those front runners might be a little different now, because now we see that Hunter, we talked about Hunter potentially being one of those top guys. Well, now he is one of those top guys, and Nick is one of those top guys right out the gate. They both beat William Bonac, who got second at the Olympia a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So now this next year we're going to have, a couple guys added to that list that are legit, threats to winning the title, and we'll see if they both take the year off. I mean, everyone in there everyone in that top 5 might wait till next year. We might not see anyone on stage till the Olympia.
Yeah.
So, but we got some questions here, and one of the first ones is, if you had $100,000 to invest, where would you put it?
Well, someone like me has options,
We'll just pretend you're busted.
Okay, so if I had $100,000,
think of the Jay Cutler before he won the Olympia. If you had $100,000,
I'd say real estate, but today it's just hard to find anything that's it's real estate's always going to go up, but I would put it in some kind of a like a fund that would guarantee me 6% or you know, 4% all day long, but usually you can get 6 or 7% out of that without really any risk, you know. And in today's day and age, like, you know, we don't know what the market's going to do versus the real estate market. So, and you can't really do as much with $100,000. But I would definitely look at, you know, even, you know, trying to find something to invest in.
So let's rephrase this. What if you had $100,000 right now and you wanted to put it somewhere? Would you put it right now?
I would put it into medical liens.
You're not going to go buy another car. Well, you make money on cars.
Yeah, you could go.
I lose money. You make money.
No, you could buy a G-Wagon, you know, and it's going to be probably,
flip it.
It might be worth, you know, $400,000 in a year.
Okay. How do you think C-Bum would have done if he competed in the Open this year? Or no, I'm sorry, 2022 next year.
No, he wouldn't. He would get smoked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just not he. Yeah. I know. We had these discussions before on how.
Yeah, but I wasn't talking about, you know, he's not at that level. Yeah. You know, he's preparing as a classic guy, but he's just, you know, he's number 1 too tall for the Open class with his size that he is now, and number 2, I mean, if he doesn't have a certain weight, you know, to make, you know, how would his condition be, you know, when he, you know, preparing for a contest, trying to be bigger, you know, the mistake may be made that you come in too big, you know, trying to be too big and you're not in condition.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite book to read that you recommend for branding or marketing?
I wish I had one, but I don't.
I don't have one either. So when you want to get marketing advice, what do you look towards?
I look on the internet, you know. I just read the internet and just watch YouTube, or I think we watch a lot of YouTube. But I don't, you know, I never got much out of books on like, oh, this is what you should do. I'm not about reading for the mind necessarily. So if you asked me like inspirational books, I mean, I mentioned Lance Armstrong's book that I read, you know, when I was competitive, but my mindset has shifted now to the point where I think, you know, there's nothing like hands-on experience. So like I'm in that headspace where I know I have a brand, right? So it's easier for me to, anything I do brand related, and that's the funny thing, you asked me about 100,000 today, I would go buy more t-shirts or come out with some sort of a product or whatever else that represents Jay Cutler, where I didn't, you know, if I was just a normal person, you know, it's a little more, you have to be a little more selective. But like I said, I have more opportunity than the average person. So, you know, that's a good question.
Do you prefer the Olympia in Las Vegas or Orlando, and why?
Las Vegas, for sure, because I live here. It's easier.
Yeah, we don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, you don't have to go anywhere. Deal with the flights and all that.
I like it better. It's kind of a two-sided question, I guess, or answer. I like the setup in Orlando better because it's all under one roof. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to get around. You know, the galas here, the expos here, the shows here, the meetings are here. Where Vegas, you know, in the past, it's you got to rent a car, you got to go drive across town for different things. But Vegas as a whole is a selling point. You know, it's got the crazy restaurants here and the pool parties and the nightclubs and the shopping and, you know, the things that we enjoy.
Anything in Vegas is great.
Have you ever stayed someplace like a hotel or cabin where you didn't have access to gyms? And if so, what type of workouts would you do? My family and I stay in cabins in the middle of nowhere often. I get very bored and unmotivated thinking about doing push-ups.
You got to do band training. I mean, I used to pack bands. Even when I would guest pose, you know, I'd bring my bands with me. But most of the time I just focus on doing cardiovascular training when I'm gone. So whether it's walking outside, hiking, whatever else, that's what I would be suggestive. And it depends how long. If you're locked up for months at a time, it's a whole different story. I mean, but taking 3 days off and just focusing on doing some sort of physical exercise, I mean, usually there for a reason, right? To enjoy yourself. And sometimes that peace of mind is worth it more than trying to worry about how to work out every day.
When's the last time you took a trip to a cabin in the middle of nowhere?
It was 2000. I stayed in Big Bear in a cabin and we got snowed in and it wasn't that exciting. we watched movies and did the same thing we do at home.
We need to take a trip up to Montana and go take you and go one in Dana and Rob's.
The weather has to be right. That's all.
Now's the best time to go because it's not. I don't think it's snowing. Just
as long as I'm prepared, but we weren't prepared. So, you know, if you're going into the snow, I love the snow. You know, if I'm prepared and I have warm clothing, but we didn't have anything. In fact, we got halfway up Big Bear. And there was a snowstorm, and we had to turn around and get chains, and I didn't have chains, so I had to buy chains for my land cruiser. And, when we got up there, we were totally snowed in. We were in sneakers, and I didn't have gloves. I mean, you don't prepare. You go from sunny Orange County to Big Bear thinking it's going to be a great getaway, and then all of a sudden you're buried in snow.
Yeah. Well, I like that. But then again, I prepare
if you
ahead
prepare,
of time.
if you prepare.
Well, that's the Olympia weekend, and shout out to Sarah. That's her first name. I don't know why I was having a mind cramp. Women's physique. She won her second in a row. But overall, it was a good experience, and it's kind of like when the Olympia is over, you kind of feel like it's like the NBA Finals is done, and you're like, well, the Olympia is over, but now the shows start back up next weekend in Reno. So we're going right back in Reno, and then
So a lot of guys now will get qualified for next year. So I know we have some hopefuls that will qualify, and they'll be sitting out, the rest of the year to prepare. And that's kind of what I did in 2001, and that told the whole story. I qualified from the year prior, and I was able to come back and place second from 8th place the year prior. So there's nothing, I'm not against that as long as you put your time and effort in the off season, and that's really what you need to take advantage of. And what I mean by that, like I was training twice a day, I was eating 6 to 7 meals a day. The difference between prior to 2001 prep is I allowed myself to have cheat meals every day in the off season. So I would eat my 5 meals, and then I would have like burgers and fries at night in the off season, and allowed my body to really get full enough. And it gave me a lot of reserve. So when I started dieting down for 2001, my body reacted well once I cut out the cheat foods. And, that was what really helped me a lot because my metabolism was so fast. So sometimes it's just finding the simplest answers, in the off season. The clean food isn't always the way to go if you're staying relatively lean and you're training twice a day and burning a lot of calories. Sometimes you need the extra calories. And when I say cheat food, it's not like I was eating ice cream and candy and that kind of stuff. I might have a burger and fries.
Candy corn.
Yeah, candy corn. Yeah. So, it's just a learning experience. And I think, I'm excited to see some of these guys come up, and there'll be some new faces that pop in there too. Cause we have a whole competitive season next year for 2022. We'll be featuring, some of these Olympians probably on the podcast here in the future. I know people are asking, when we're going to have our guests, and they're coming.
Yeah. We're in the next couple of weeks. We have a couple that are going to come on.
Yeah.
We won't say who they are until it's over, but we got a couple, we got a couple of guests starting to come in. And yeah, like I said, we got the show in Reno next week, and the week after is actually Big Ramy has a open pro show in Cairo, Egypt, and I might fly over for that.
Wow.
I might. Got nothing else to do.
Yeah. So, guys, make sure you guys comment below what your thoughts are on whatever division it is you follow. I know we touched on many of these, but let us know what you guys think about these results. Who you think maybe might be the front runners coming up, or who do you think will hold on to that title for a long period of time? I think you kind of can tell by, our conversation that we have belief in certain individuals, but that doesn't mean your insight will not be recognized. We want you guys to comment. And, of course, thank you for liking and subscribing to the Cutler Cast. And, we appreciate you guys so much. So we'll see you next for episode 10. Next week, and
maybe we'll have a guest. Maybe.
Yeah. So episode 10. I can't believe 10 episodes have already taken place, and we're well on our way.
It just seemed like the other day when we were, hey, let's start it up and let's set it up in the house with the
so you people are making us successful. So we both appreciate you guys so much, and stay tuned for episode 10 coming next Wednesday.
Yes, sir.